This is the FalconEyes T12 RGB LED panel. This is a flex roll LED panel, and it's actually a pretty cool video light that I got sent for review, as I've been trying to cover more video light products on the channel and experiment with them more for myself. This one is a little pricey though for what you're getting, in my opinion, and so that may affect some of your all's views as to whether or not you actually want to get this one, but it's still pretty neat. In the package, you actually get like a very nice protective padded travel case that even comes with slots for the batteries, which I was impressed by. You get the flex roll light itself, you get a handle, which is actually very nicely built if you just need to like run and gun hold it as a light like in one position, or it comes with this ball head mount that can either go to a cold shoe adapter or a 1/4 thread, so I have it on a light stand here. However, this thing is not the best quality. It unscrews from itself very often, and it doesn't always want to lock into place. So this isn't the greatest quality, and unfortunately the mount at the bottom of the light that the ball head or the handle screw into is not a 1/4 thread tap. I'm guessing because of the size, they had to make it a lot smaller, and so your mileage may vary with regards to actually mounting this thing up. But it has a lovely assortment of 12 LED strips here, which are bicolor and RGB, which can allow you to do some pretty cool stuff. And over on the back, you can see you have a full controller here. If I actually turn it on, you have a full controller here for changing the RGB values or the color values. It takes 2 Sony NPF style batteries, which makes it a lot more compatible with equipment that you might already have. However, that also means it's going to drain them very quickly. And I also ran into some issues where it kind of like, it would like flicker a little bit or either flicker a lot. Like we thought our entire living room's lights were flickering because I had it on so bright whenever the battery voltage kind of drops out and the batteries die. So it's a little annoyance when it comes to these lower power batteries, but it is wall power. It does come with a DC wall power setup as well, if that's more your thing, or you can have beefier batteries than I do. I've got mostly cheap generic NPF batteries, so that may be one of the things that's just kind of my fault. Now, unlike the previous Rolleiflex LED I showed off, which had the control box separate, this whole thing is integrated directly into the light, which you can almost remove, but you cannot remove the whole thing. It is Velcroed on here because it is wired directly into the light itself, which does add more weight to the panel compared to the previous model that I reviewed. But the whole back is covered in this Velcro material, and it actually has this wire frame built into it so that it will kind of adhere to whatever shape you want to build it in, on top of being flexible in the first place. So it's not the kind of loosey-goosey, it goes wherever it wants and you have to figure out how to hold it in place kind of flex light. It is very much a you bend it and it stays in place kind of light, which is pretty cool. The controller on the back, like I mentioned before, you can choose the red, green, and blue values from 0 all the way up to 255 saturation, which is pretty neat. If you press the dial in, you actually zoom in increments of 10 instead of 1, so you can fine tune from there and make your color based on your RGB values if you want to do it that way. Or you can choose the actual color temperature for white, so you can have all the way down to 2700K to 9999K to get you an actual white light. And then there is a dimmer. However, the dimmer only applies to the white light modes, not to the RGB modes, which I found pretty frustrating. Now you can sort of dim it based on the RGB values by increasing or decreasing the saturation, more or less kind of dims the light, but I was kind of disappointed that they didn't have a direct dimmer for the RGB modes regardless. They do actually have here a preset mode, and then you can actually set it up for DMX channel connectivity for controlling via other control boxes that I don't have. But there are 9 different presets, which are just kind of individual colors here. But if you don't want to have to, if you just want a really quick color and don't want to have to fine tune it, you do have these options. And this pink purple mode is really nice. Like on that black background, that just looks really sick for me. Overall, the build quality is pretty good. I haven't had any major issues with that other than, like I said, this weird ball head mount, which you can probably find another threaded tap adapter to screw into the panel itself and mount it elsewhere. But the size is a really interesting proposition here. One little annoyance is if you do set a preset, your effects with the other color temperature modes do not affect that preset, which is a little annoying. So So I'm sitting here changing the white color temperature, or I was changing the white color temperature, but I was on a preset, so it did nothing at all. Now I'm affecting the white color temperature, but because I have RGB involved, it's not affecting it. So I have to turn the RGB off and then come back to the dimmer and affect the white. So you gotta learn the control system a little bit here, or it can be a little funky. Now, the smaller size does make it something that will have a little bit more limited use, although the brightness is ridiculous. It can get ridiculously bright. It is harsh, hard light. Like, you have these individual LEDs and the individual strips that can show up in shadows as lines, and so you would want to get them set up with diffusion material and things like that. But it does mean for small key lights or specific like corner lights, you can bend it and get the exact like projection that you want out into the area, soften it up a little bit if you need to, and have a little bit of flexibility. So while the previous Rolleiflex light I showed off was massive, it was like a huge panel, you don't have a whole lot of control about how like fine that light is. This one is kind of the opposite in that it is a bit more rigid, but you get a more controlled light source as a result due to it being so small. Again, for $300, this is kind of asking a lot for a small light for 2018, where everyone is trying to make their own LED strip lights. But given that you're getting mostly accurate colors, I did feel like sometimes I got a magenta shift with it, but I think that is mostly the Panasonic camera I was using. For the most part, it seems fairly accurate light, and you get RGB capability. And like I said, I do believe you can hook it up to DMX control as well. And the fact that you can Velcro it or mount it up anywhere, and it comes with a nice case and everything, you're getting a good value out of it. And for actual production setups and not just wanting something cheap and easy, I do think the value is still there. I'm just someone who kind of cringes a bit at high prices just because I have a lower budget. But pretty neat light. Go check it out. Affiliate product link will be in the description down below. Down there, hit the like button, subscribe for more production gear. If you missed my other Rolleiflex LED review, go check that out as well. Let me know what you would like to see in terms of lighting reviews in the future. I'm AprilsVox, here to make tech easier and more fun. I'll see you next time.